There's something brewing in the air around Celtic Park, and it's not exactly the excitement of a title chase or a European run. As the international break rolls in for the second time this season, attention shifts off the pitch and onto something a bit more complicated: the growing tension between the club's board and its fans. And after a much-anticipated meeting between key supporters groups and the Celtic hierarchy, it's fair to say that the mood is anything but optimistic. So let's dive into what really went down, who showed up, and why this gathering, instead of bringing clarity, might have only deepened the disconnect. Now, for starters, let's talk about who was in the room. On one side, you had various supporters groups, the traditional names like the Celtic Trust, Green Brigade, the Association of Irish Celtic Supporters Clubs, and others. But also sitting at the table were members from the relatively new but increasingly vocal Celtic Fans Collective, a group formed to represent a broader fan base that's been pushing for accountability, transparency, and structural changes within the club. Although the collective wasn't initially invited, they managed to secure spots at the meeting after further discussion with the club, with 4 other organizations reportedly giving up one of their 2 seats to make room. That's how much interest and trust there is in this new fan voice. From the club's side, the expectation was that figures like Michael Nicholson and Chris McKay would be present, and while that hasn't been officially confirmed, it's generally believed they did attend, if only because not showing up would have sparked outrage. After all, their involvement was promised, and given the current state of unease among supporters, the club couldn't afford to make that mistake. So how did it all go? Well, based on what's trickled out since the doors closed, not great. While we still wait for an official statement from the Celtic Fans Collective, which they've promised once meeting minutes are finalized, some unofficial accounts have already surfaced. One message, which was supposed to remain confidential, found its way online. And in it, the verdict is clear. The 2.5-hour meeting resulted in little to no progress. The Celtic board was reportedly on the defensive throughout, denying most of the concerns brought to the table. They didn't accept that the club has stalled. They dismissed the notion that recent transfer windows have been failures. They stood by the current model for doing business and denied lacking ambition. Even the idea of a disconnect between the boardroom and the dugout, rejected outright. It's like the board came in prepared to gaslight the room, waving off any criticisms as misguided or flat-out wrong. There's a sense among fans that the club is in denial. No acknowledgement of past missteps, no acceptance of stagnation. Just the same corporate PR lines, repeated as if they'd somehow make the problems go away. And that's where the real frustration lies. Because if a meeting like this, set up in the middle of a season, amid clear discontent in the stands and on social media, leads to zero accountability, then what hope is there for meaningful change? The tone of the meeting reportedly mirrored the infamous club statement from about a month ago, which many fans viewed as a tone-deaf, arrogant piece of spin. That statement alone caused uproar. It dodged responsibility, threw subtle digs at rivals, and reinforced the idea that the board is completely out of touch with reality. If anything, last night's meeting seemed like a continuation of that mentality. And while some within the board may believe they're doing what's best for the club, the disconnect from the fan base is becoming too big to ignore. There was also mention of one particularly sore topic, the leak to the press about Brendan Rodgers. Many supporters wanted to know if there would be an internal investigation into how sensitive information ended up in the hands of the media. The club's answer? A resounding no. Apparently, they asked every member of the board, and since nobody owned up, the case is closed. That kind of response doesn't sit well with anyone who cares about professionalism or accountability. It's the footballing equivalent of shrugging your shoulders and walking away from a mess you created. That said, the club did acknowledge, albeit in vague terms, that communication with fans needs improvement. But again, this wasn't backed up by any concrete plans. Just words. And after years of being fed hollow statements, supporters are tired of words. They want action. They want transparency. They want to feel like their voices actually mean something beyond being a line on the balance sheet. And speaking of balance sheets, maybe that's the real driver behind this sudden willingness to sit down with fans. If we're being cynical, and maybe we should be, the club's motivation might have little to do with values and everything to do with money. Reports are circulating that matchday revenues and merchandise sales are down. The new Celtic store in central Glasgow, a major investment, opened to little fanfare, and even less foot traffic. On a Saturday, no less. That's not just a minor hiccup. That's a red flag for a club that prides itself on commercial success. Then there's the ticketing issue. The recent match against Motherwell didn't sell out, a rare occurrence for a weekend fixture at Celtic Park. In fact, the club was reportedly pushing ticket sales hard right up to match day, flooding social media with promotions. It felt desperate. And if Europa League nights are also struggling to draw crowds, then yes, the financial warning signs are flashing. Fans don't just support the club emotionally, they fund it. And when they start pulling back, it forces the suits upstairs to pay attention. So, was this meeting just a smokescreen to pacify angry supporters while the board tries to plug the financial holes? It's hard to ignore the timing. It's also hard to ignore the lack of genuine contrition or any admission that mistakes have been made. Instead of confronting the issues head-on, it seems like the board chose to talk around them, hoping that would be enough. But judging by the early reactions, it wasn't. Still, amid the disappointment, the Celtic fans collective and others in attendance will now take time to regroup and figure out what comes next. There's another meeting scheduled for the 16th of October, and that could be a key moment. Already, there had been a call to avoid disruptive protests for the upcoming match against Dundee, and focus instead on supporting the players. That's a mature approach, one that shows fans understand the need to back the team on the pitch, even if they're deeply unhappy with those in the boardroom. But depending on how people reflect on this last meeting, and whether any new information emerges, that stance could shift. People are frustrated. They feel unheard. And if the club continues to operate like it's untouchable, supporters will only push harder. Not just for answers, but for real change. Because this isn't about one bad transfer window or a poor run of form. It's about a culture, one that seems more concerned with maintaining control than with growing the club in a way that respects its history and engages its lifeblood, the fans. While the boardroom drama continues to dominate the headlines, there's still a football club to run, and for Celtic, that means managing a squad scattered across the globe for international duty. We're into the second break of the season, and once again, a significant number of first-team players have linked up with their national sides, while others remain at Lennoxtown, either recovering from knocks or simply not involved due to form. But this split in the squad might actually offer a bit of breathing room for the coaching staff, especially with a packed fixture list looming on the other side of the break. So, who's away and who's still around? Let's start with those who've been called up. We've got Kasper Schmeichel away with Denmark, Ville Sinisalo with Finland, Liam Scales representing Ireland, Cameron Carter-Vickers with the United States, and Benji Negrin with Sweden. Sebastian Tani is with Tunisia, Marcelo Serra has linked up with Uruguay, and Daisen Maeda is with Japan. From the home nations, Anthony Ralston and Kieran Tierney are on duty with Scotland, and young Kobe Donovan joins Scotland's under-21s. That's a fair bit of talent out the door for the next week or so, and it will be interesting to see how many of them actually get significant minutes. In the last few international windows, it's become a bit of a pattern that many of our lads, even when called up, spend more time on the bench than on the pitch. Carter-Vickers and Negrin, for example, haven't exactly been racking up the caps, and the same goes for Sinisalo and Tani. But still, it's valuable experience, and if they can return without any injuries, that's already a win for Celtic. Now, on the flip side, we've got a decent group staying behind. Some are recovering from injuries. Alistair Johnston, for one, is still working his way back, and the hope is he'll be ready for Dundee. Austin Trusty is also not away, likely due to fitness concerns. Then there's Mishael Langbelisha, who had declared for DR Congo, but hasn't been called up in their last two squads. That one's a bit puzzling, and you have to wonder if he's having second thoughts or if it's purely down to form. Other notable names not traveling include Hyunjin Yang, Kelechi Iheanacho, Johnny Kenny, Ari Engels, and Rio Hatate. In most of those cases, the reason is pretty straightforward. They're not performing at the level required for international selection. Take Rio Hatate, for example. There was a time not long ago when he seemed like a lock for Japan's midfield. Now, he's on the outside looking in, and that says a lot about where his game is at currently. And then there's the group of players who, for one reason or another, just aren't in the mix for their national teams at all. Some have never been capped. Others have retired, like Callum McGregor. James Forrest is in that group as well, although his absence is a bit of a mystery. Still, These players will all be part of the training group at Lennoxtown over the break, and for the coaching staff, it's a chance to regroup, refocus, and perhaps give a bit of extra attention to those who need it most. It's also worth noting the size of the squad Celtic are currently carrying. If you include everyone, even those completely out of the picture like Hayato Amora, Shun Yamada, and Jumai Simpson, you're looking at around 30 players. With 11 away on international duty, that still leaves close to 20 at Lennoxtown. That's enough to keep things ticking over, and for players on the fringes or trying to regain fitness, it's a real opportunity. This break might feel quiet, but it's actually crucial. When the players return, the calendar explodes into life. 8 matches before the next international window. That's the challenge awaiting Celtic. And we're not talking about a run of easy fixtures here. There's European football, a League Cup semi-final against Rangers, and tricky domestic ties, including a visit to Tynecastle to face Hearts. It's a demanding stretch, and the squad will need to be firing on all cylinders. That's why this window, frustrating as it might be for fans, could be a blessing in disguise. It gives the medical team time to work on the likes of Johnston and Trusty. It gives the manager a chance to drill ideas into players who haven't been up to scratch. And it gives the likes of Forrest and McGregor, key veterans, a bit of time to rest, reset, and lead the charge when the action resumes. But there's a flip side, and it's this. If things don't improve after the break, the pressure is only going to mount. The board might be trying to play down the discontent, but they can't ignore it forever. Results on the pitch are the one thing that can shift the mood, and that's why this next run of games is so important. If Celtic stumble, especially in the big ones, then the frustration will boil over, and no amount of corporate spin will calm things down. For now, though, all eyes are on the players away with their countries. Fans will be watching closely, not just to make sure they come back unscathed, but also to see if any of them can pick up form and bring some energy back to the squad. A good international window can do wonders for confidence. A goal here, a strong performance there, and suddenly a player returns looking sharper, hungrier, more assured. That's the hope. Meanwhile, back at Lennoxtown, the work continues. It might be under the radar, but it's vital. There's still belief in this group, but belief without performances doesn't get you far in football. This is a moment for reflection, not just for the players and the staff, but for the entire club. From top to bottom, things need to be better. And if they aren't, there's a fan base ready to hold people accountable, one way or another. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Glasgow's footballing circles are buzzing tonight with talk that Kevin NISBET, the Scotland international and boyhood Celtic fan, could be on the verge of a dramatic switch to Parkhead. While nothing official has yet come from the club, multiple whispers from sources close to Lennoxtown suggest an announcement may be imminent. NISBET, currently at Millwall, has long been admired by the Celtic hierarchy. His sharp instincts in the box, powerful hold-up play, and knack for scoring in big moments have kept him on the radar since his Hibernian days. Now, it appears the long-rumored reunion between player and club could finally be materializing. The timing feels telling. With Celtic looking for fresh firepower to complement Kyogo Furuhashi and maintain their domestic dominance, NISBET's potential arrival could inject immediate competition and perhaps a touch of homegrown grit into the front line. Fans have taken to social media in droves, some thrilled at the thought of a Scots striker in the mold of Gary Hooper, others more cautious, questioning whether NISBET can adapt to the demands of Champions League football. Reports from training ground insiders claim the deal has moved faster than expected, with terms said to be largely agreed. There's even talk that a medical could already be scheduled, fueling speculation that an official unveiling might come before the weekend fixture. If confirmed, the move would mark a full-circle moment for the 28-year-old forward, who grew up idolizing the green and white. Sources close to NISBET describe him as hungry for a return to Scottish football's biggest stage, eager to prove himself after a mixed spell south of the border. For Celtic, it could be a statement of intent, adding a proven domestic scorer with passion for the badge. For NISBET, it's a chance to light up paradise and write a new chapter in his career. As one insider put it late last night, it's not done until it's done, but if this happens, Celtic Park will be bouncing. The city waits. The rumor mill spins. And somewhere in the east end of Glasgow, fans are already humming "You'll Never Walk Alone," hoping the next voice to join the chorus will be Kevin Nisbet's. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.